Welcome to today's Explainer. We are breaking down the 4 p.m. macro trends, energy, tech, and AI governance. Let's jump right in. So I want you to ask yourself a question. What happens when global redundancy just disappears? That's the main puzzle we're unpacking today. We're tracking this massive microtrend of what we're calling connected escalation, all across our physical and digital networks. I mean, think about it. What actually happens when backup routes, reserve power grids, and emergency supplies are all pushed to their absolute breaking point at the exact same time?
Part 1, Energy Squeeze and Geopolitics. $91.01. That is where Brent crude just settled, hitting a massive 5-week high. And look, that eventually trickles right down to everything, from the gas in your tank to your weekly grocery bill. Now, you might have heard some optimism lately about a 10-day ceasefire between the US and Iran, but commercial markets, they aren't buying it. They're reacting to cold, hard physical evidence on the water because tanker disruptions are completely overwhelming any hope for immediate price relief. Just look at the simultaneous immense pressure on the region's absolute most critical energy choke points. In the Strait of Hormuz, a crew literally had to abandon their vessel after a reported projectile strike. And at the exact same time, over in the Red Sea, Houthi threats forced 2 Saudi tankers, which were carrying crude to China and India, to completely reverse course. It's like the main highway and the backup detour are both blocked at once.
And this brilliantly illustrates that disappearing redundancy trend right here at home, too. The margins for error are basically gone. Look at these compounding factors. The Southwest Power Pool narrowly avoided rolling blackouts across 14 states. They pushed right up to a level 3 alert. Add that to declining U.S. crude and notoriously tight diesel inventories. Plus, you throw in extreme heat, Tropical Storm Bertha in the Gulf, and widespread wildfire smoke. The system's vulnerability is entirely, completely exposed.
Naturally, this physical strain spills right over into broader market and policy constraints. Investors are bracing for longer-lasting inflation driven by these sky-high energy costs. Meanwhile, policymakers are navigating incredibly tight congressional margins ahead of the August recess, which leaves leaders pretty much zero room for defections on spending or energy measures. And just to add to the economic complexity, President Trump has proposed 50% tariffs on Canadian imports. As a matter of pure policy update, these combined constraints are driving some serious market volatility and totally divided conviction among investors right now.
All right, moving on to part 2, semiconductors stage a recovery.
Because despite those inflation concerns we were just talking about, the enthusiasm for chips is just overwhelming the broader market. The Philadelphia Semiconductor Index staged this incredible, powerful recovery from a recent bear market dip. We're talking a 5.5% gain in a single day. That pushes its year-to-date growth to a massive 75%. Investors are absolutely rushing back in ahead of major tech earnings. And here is exactly why they're rushing in. S&P 500 tech companies tied to this massive computing build-out are expected to report staggering second-quarter earnings growth. We are talking about 133%. To put that into perspective, that number shows insane market confidence in AI infrastructure. But let's be totally clear here. Expectations being this high leaves absolutely zero tolerance for weak forward guidance or narrowing margins. If they miss, it's going to hit hard. Which brings us to this fascinating microtrend of industrialization. AI and next-gen tech aren't just sitting in a lab anymore. They are hitting the real world and fast. Look at this breakdown. Tesla is actually expanding its autonomous robo-taxi fleets into Orlando and Tampa. Electra is throwing down $850 million for a factory in Ohio to build hybrid electric planes. And Microsoft, they just signed a multi-billion-dollar deal to back Mistral's AI infrastructure over in Europe. The technology is literally hitting the factory floor and securing massive capacity contracts as we speak. Which leads us perfectly into part 3, US-China AI negotiations. So the US and China are gearing up for their first formal AI talks this September, which are expected to be led by US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And as you can see, they are bringing vastly different objectives to the table. Washington is heavily focused on protecting American models, chips, research, and cloud capacity from strengthening competing systems. Beijing, on the flip side, really wants substantive technical discussions and clarity on future American export controls. They're hoping to avoid a meeting that just gets bogged down by political statements.
But what's absolutely vital to take away from this is how deeply interconnected all these stakes are. Negotiating AI isn't just a software issue anymore, guys. Military AI risks, access to frontier models, those massive cloud capacity needs, and Just like we saw earlier with the near blackouts, electrical grid availability, they're all part of the exact same national security conversation. Industrial policy, microchips, and literally just keeping the lights on are now fundamentally linked together. So this brings us to one final critical question to wrap up this explainer. We've seen today how a tanker attack in Hormuz, a heat wave straining the Southwest power grid, and the massive energy demands of a booming AI tech sector all compound on each other. With disappearing redundancies across our power grids, our shipping lane, and our data centers, how fragile are our interconnected global systems today? It's a reality that's going to redefine markets, foreign policy, and honestly, your daily life in the months to come. Definitely something to keep in mind as we watch these incredible trends unfold.